Well, hey, everybody. Getting ready to record this week's Mike in the Midwest, episode 172. So let's do it. Let's get that set here. Let's see, we got that. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Okay, here we go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 172 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast, where you can find us at beourguestpodcast.com. And you can find me on the socials, Threads, Instagram, formerly known at, or Instagram and Twitter, formerly known, or X. That's such a mess. And I'm already struggling here on a Tuesday morning, but you know where I am. I'm at Be Our Guest Mike on all the socials, and we're probably already connected. But if we're not, I would sure love to interact with you. I talk a lot of Mizzou football, SEC football, but Disney, of course, and weather events when they happen, and just life in general. So if you want to reach out on the social media, that would make my week. So connect with me. That'd be great. I try to drop in on Facebook every now and then. Mike Rallman. It's easy to find me, but I go weeks on end, not checking in on Facebook. It's because it just gets kind of crazy over there. And definitely never send me a message on Facebook Messenger, because I never check that, because I don't even have that app on my front screen, because it just seems like it's always spam. And so I can never, just when I get on there, I just see a bunch of spam messages. So if you want to get a hold of me, send me an email. That's the best way. Mike at beourguestpodcast.com. But you guys know that. So I hope you're having a great week. It is Tuesday. What is it? November 7th already. Holy cow. It's 20 days until my birthday. I just realized that. And it's a big one this year. Oh my gosh. I'm not even going to say the number, because I still feel like I'm 21. I seriously do. I mean, I act like I'm 21. You know, I'm planning on running a marathon again, here in a few months, and God willing. And, I still play sports. I still dress like I do when I was in my 20s. I don't know. It seems like, because again, here's Mike in the Midwest, because the show is just about going off on tangents every week. And I think it's just you and me kind of sitting down for a conversation for about 30 minutes. And hopefully it's a distraction, maybe when you're on your run or walking the dog or what have you, doing the dishes, whatever it takes. But I watch a lot of old TV shows, right? I've talked about this app many times, Pluto TV. And at first, when I heard it advertised on a podcast about 5 years ago, it was pre-pandemic, I think. I was like, there's this app with all these TV shows that you can stream for free. I was like, it's got to be a scam. Why would there be an app where everything is for free with over 100 channels? It sounds like a cable network, but absolutely free. Because you got to pay for Netflix, you got to pay for Disney Plus, you got to pay for ESPN Plus, you got to pay for all that stuff. Like, why would one be free and everything else is charged? There's no free lunch. I'm very skeptical of things like that, but I get it. What they program mostly is stuff that would just be sitting on a shelf and never see the light of day. Like right now, I have Pluto TV on a channel called Buzzer, and all it shows all day long is old game shows. So right now on my TV, it's showing Card Sharks with Bobby Eubanks. And after that, it'll show Match Game episodes with Gene Rayburn. And before that, it was showing, what was before that? It's Classic Concentration with Alex Trebek and Family Feud and stuff like that. So this stuff would just sit on a shelf. There's the Love Boat channel. There's MASH channel. There's all these shows that probably would never get played, and they show commercials so they can sell commercials against it. So that's how it makes its money. Okay, so that has nothing to do with what I was saying. I'm turning a big number this year on my birthday here right around Thanksgiving time. But here's the thing, and I don't know if you've ever noticed this, because I think a lot of us here are around the same age, and we all kind of have similar but different backgrounds, which I love about our podcast family, is that when they depicted people in their 40s or 50s on TV in the 70s and 80s, it seemed like they were so old when they would depict people like a 50-year-old on TV in, like, I don't know, Three's Company, or Leave It to Beaver, or I don't know, pick a show, any of these sitcoms or these dramas. A 50-year-old on these old TV shows was like 1 foot in the grave. And I mean, I know that I'm no longer a high school kid. I know that I'm no longer a college kid. And I know that I'm getting older, but I don't see myself as like that old. And maybe it's just Mike, you need to realize that you are getting older. But the depiction of how a 50-year-old was shown on TV on these shows that I watch on Pluto TV, like a 50-year-old, especially on Love Boat. When somebody says they're 50 on the Love Boat, they look like they're 70. They look so old. And I don't know. It almost looks like they've given up back then at 50. It looks like they were just, they were 2 days away from going in the old folks home. And I don't feel that way. I mean, I'm still raising a 16-year-old. I'm still, parenting a 27-year-old who's she's definitely a grown young woman up in Chicago. She raises herself, but I mean, we're still a family and we still offer parent advice and things like that. And, still working full time. It's not, I don't know. I've thought about this a lot as you come in on one of these milestone birthdays, you think about things like this. And it's not, I'm not even thinking about retirement. I love doing the podcast. This is what I do full time. I podcast, I work and travel. Um, I don't know what else I would do. I mean, retirement, yes, that would be exciting to just travel and not work. But with the way I work, I don't have a traditional job. So retirement isn't something that is going to be something that happens like on a set date, like the end of school on this day of this school year. Like I thought it would have when I started teaching, because when my wife, she may retire after next school year because she's taught almost 30 years at this point. And that's when you can retire and get a full retirement, and definitely earned it. She is taught in a really rough district and she stayed there when everybody else has left, including myself. She's hung in there for almost 30 years. That's one of those things that when you do a job like that, yes, full retirement, you're vested, you can leave, and then you get your full, benefits and all that stuff for the rest, your time. But with my gig, I'm a creator. Like I love this. I love being able to be in the stew. If I didn't have a microphone to talk into and interact with you guys and have Twitter to cut, like I would miss this within a week. If I walked away from doing a podcast and being able to get my contact with not only Scott, Ricky, and Pam, but also you guys, it's the family meeting every week, and even these Tuesday meetings that we have with our patrons. I don't know what I would do. So I'll do this as long as I can, and I appreciate each and every one of you putting up with me, and especially you guys here on Patreon for financially supporting the podcast. Even you might not think it means much, but it means more than you know, because I know you're sacrificing an extra cup of coffee, at Starbucks, or a value meal at McDonald's. I don't forget that, because I know you're raising kids, and we all have mortgage payments. Every little bit adds up. But I thank you for earmarking that little a bit each month to support us over here. It is not overlooked, and I try to always give you everything I can on the podcasts. I always try to make them long enough that it entertains you. I try to make them worth your while. I try to edit them so they sound good, and I always try to make the content worthwhile. I always try to make it a good mix on Friday of something that's light and something maybe you could play with your kids, a little like just mental game of, like this Friday, we're going to do a show like where at Walt Disney World or Disneyland could you, because I saw like a thread on Twitter, somebody was asking, so for Friday, somebody on Twitter was asking, they want to go to Walt Disney World, but they like reading books and they want to read a book in a theme park. And I thought that was so weird, right? You go to a theme park to ride rides, you go to have meals, you go to meet characters. But their thing is they're on vacation. They want to do what they want. They want to be in a theme park because they love the atmosphere, but they just want to read a book. Where would you go in a theme park at Walt Disney World to read a book? And so I got thinking, like, where would you? Because you wouldn't want to be like stimulated, but you might want to listen to a background loop, and you want to have somewhere to sit. You'd want to be in shade, but would you want to be inside, outside? So I started thinking about that, and I'm like, that's a good question. So I posed that to the ladies. And then I thought, well, how about some other scenarios? Like, where at Walt Disney World do you go to get the best steak? What if you wanted to take a nap? Where would be the best place to take a nap? Or Ricky posed a question like, if you had to get work done, is somebody who like myself that, works out of a laptop Like if, in a pinch, you had to do like a 30-minute meeting. Where in the theme parks would you propose you could get work done and not disturb yourself or others? So we have that kind of a conversation. And again, these are the kind of shows that I hope when you're listening, maybe you do argue with us into your AirPods, and that's okay. That's the goal of the show. But then maybe also you're listening in the car and your daughter has the most brilliant idea ever that we forgot about over at Animal Kingdom, back in Africa, a little nook or cranny that we totally overlooked. And then you can let us know on social media or shoot us an email. And also, by the way, all four of us now have emails with our first names at beourguestpodcast.com. So shoot us an email anytime. We'd love that. So anyway, we try to make them like that. We also try to keep you informed. We also on Friday's show go into the schedule of events that are going to be happening at Jollywood Nights. If you're heading down to that awesome party, Ricky and Pam are both going to the first Jollywood Nights this weekend. So we go through the schedule of the two big shows, the Muppet Show, that I call it the Muppet Show, but it's the one with the Muppets. And then there's the Jack Skellington sing-along show. What's it called? What's this? I think is what it's called. So there's like 4 or 5 shows each night. So we give the times for the shows. We talk about Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam. That's not showing till 12:30. It's the last thing of the event. And then we kind of talk to the ladies, like, what's their plan of attack? So Friday show is kind of full of a lot of, it's kind of half and half. It's got a lot of information about Jollywood Nights at the front. Then we kind of play the little, mental game at the back half. So I hope you enjoy that. Of course, Wednesday's listener questions. You guys send in your listener questions. You always get priority on that too. So that's kind of what's happening on the show this week around here. We are looking forward to a big, huge football game this Friday night at Francis Howell. Let me just tell you guys real quick about what's happening. So we were the underdogs last Friday night we're in the playoffs. We're in the second round of the playoffs. Last Friday, we were in the second round of the playoffs. We won in the first round. We smoked out the team. We scored 76 points. We advanced to the second round. Now, last week we were the underdog team, and we had to go to this big old high school and play against them. We were the underdogs, and they went down. They got the ball first, went down the field, boom, scored a touchdown on us. We were down 7-0, and I'll be honest, because Mallory's obviously a cheerleader. She's there cheering, but I'm just watching the football game. And I'm like, oh, we're in trouble because this team just went down and just laid it on us the first drive. I'm like, oh, this is not good, because for the last 2 years, we've hardly ever been losing. But again, don't forget, last year we won state, but we were in the second largest grouping of high schools in our state. We were in 5A. In our district in Missouri, it goes from 1A to 6A by the size of your population in your school. So we won in 5A. We were in the second to largest schools. Well, this year they bumped us up to 6A. So we're in the gigantic schools. We're in the biggest schools in the state all of a sudden. We're with the largest schools in our state. Now we're up there. So anyway, we're playing the school. I'm like, oh, Lord, we're losing. So you can imagine I'm a sports guy. I wish every one of you could watch a football game with me, because I am not like I am on the podcast. I am mental. I'm intense. So we go down 7-0, and I'm just like, this is not going to end well. This is not good, because we have not been losing. So like our parents are losing it. Like we're not good at like being behind, because our parents, like our whole like school has not had to experience losing in quite a while. So we're down, like the football parents are freaking out. I sit with all the cheer parents. There's 30 cheerleaders. There's all kinds of cheer parents. We're all kind of like stressed. I mean, when they scored their touchdown, I was quiet as a mouse on our side of the field. And by the way, we had twice as many fans on our side of the football field than they did. And they were the home team. We travel. Francis Howell travels. So they score, like, oh, Lord. I mean, they looked good. The good news is we scored the next 35 unanswered points. We ended up 35-7 at half, and then just ran away with the game. So we ended up just smoking them out. I don't know, like after the first drive, we must have figured it out and got a couple of interceptions for touchdowns, fumble recovery. It all turned around, and it ended well. But I'll tell you what, I was sweating it out the first like 5-7 minutes of the game, because they brought it to us. And I don't know why they didn't keep running they were running a hurry up, and they got us. So anyway, this Friday night, somehow we got home field advantage. So we get to play one more game on our home field at the H. And we're playing the 2-time defending state champions in 6A in large school It's a school. If you've ever been to St. Louis, it's called CBC. It's called Christian Brothers College, and it's called college because it's college prep school. It's not a college; it's a high school, but it's a private school, and it's where all the like professional athletes send their kids because it's a private high school dead in West County where like all the professional athletes live. So it's a private school, so they can give scholarships, they can recruit. You don't have to live in their district because they're a private school. They can get people from anywhere because they don't have boundaries. They don't have like, public schools, you have to live in the district. It's a private school. So they're excel at athletics, soccer, football, hockey. They're great. And they have a lot of guys going to like big colleges. I mean, a lot of them like Ohio State. So we're playing them. So they're the defending state champions for the last 2 years. Well, we're the defending state champions too, but we're the defending state 5A champions. So this Friday night will be interesting because it's two defending state champions facing each other in the district championship game. So the winner of that game, you would still have to win 3 more games to win state. But basically, this is going to be the hardest game either one of us would probably have to play to become the state champion. It's kind of wild that we're in the same district because it just how we are. We're close to each other. So we're in the same district. If we go on, we'll probably have easier games the next 3 weeks to win state. So it's going to be intense. So you'll hear about that on the podcast next week. We're way the underdog in this one, but we'll see what happens. So that's what I have going on around here. Thank you for indulging me there. That's why Figment in the studio does have on Viking horns this week because we are the Vikings. All right, so let's hit the feedback from last week's show about Halloween memories back at Spinning Wheels because last Tuesday was Halloween. Hope you had a good one. Hope you got all the Reese's and Kit Kats you can enjoy. I'm still destroying M&Ms and Kit Kats here in the studio. John Luther, my good friend, says Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. It's just about the kids, costumes, and candy. What's not to love? Our Halloween was slightly warmer than yours with temperatures in the mid 40s. My kids wanted to go out with a group from the neighborhood and had lots of fun doing the 1 mile loop. At home, giving out candy, we ended up with roughly 80 kids this year. We didn't have a nearby skating rink growing up to have Halloween at. The nearest rink was nearly 30 minutes away, and I never made it there until late high school. The only skating we ever did was on a local pond that would freeze over once it got cold enough. I spent most of my life those days standing back up after falling down. God, that's a crime you didn't have a skating rink, because I have this theory that most of us that grew up in suburbia had a skating rink, and the skating rink kind of defined our childhood, right? Especially small towns. I think small towns have a few things that are in common. They have skating rinks, they have bowling alleys, and they have Dairy Queens. And that's where a lot of memories are made. There's a few other things, but especially skating rinks, bowling alleys, and Dairy Queens, I think are essential, besides like churches and schools. But yeah, interesting. I love that. We probably had about 80 trick-or-treaters too come by here if I had to guess like a number. That's probably about what we had. Thank you, John. Dennis says Halloween was crazy in our neighborhood this year. He's down in Texas. When we first moved into this house, we would usually get about 20 to 30 kids trick-or-treating. That number grew a little over the years. Then we had new neighbors move in at the end of the block. Every year, they create some elaborate Halloween display. This year was a haunted old West town. It was really impressive and had a skeleton horse pulling a stagecoach. People come from all over the area to see it. That has driven up the number of people that come to our house. Also, my wife found a great deal on bulk orders of full-size candy bars. Word got out that the house with the Darth Vader pumpkin was giving out those bars, and we got swamped. I lost track of the number of kids after 100, and it was considerably more than that. We were busy, but it was a lot of fun. The force was with Dennis. And how cool is that, though? Those kids will talk about that for 10 years, that you gave out full-size candy bars. You had the Darth Vader pumpkin. I mean, that's joy. That's actually what the topic is going to be here in a few minutes, is finding joy in small things. And that's it. Oh my gosh. That's it. Dennis, I would have come to your house. But how cool is that you had neighbors to get into it like that and make a little Western town? I love that stuff. I'm not creative enough to ever do anything like that, but I love going and taking pictures of people who do, especially, Christmas is coming up and people will have, the whole reindeer that, LED lights where it looks like it's moving across the roof and stuff. Santa looking like he's going down the chimney. I love that stuff. And I'm always like, I should do that. Then I'm like, I'm not getting up on the roof and falling off. It's too cold. But I'll enjoy everybody else's. And finally, Trisha, she says, can't say I have any memories of my local roller rink. What I do remember, the distinct smell running into the carpeted walls when I couldn't stop and having my fingers rolled over after wiping out. Yeah, I know. I get it. If you only knew the injuries I had at my roller rink, I had my teeth removed, my front teeth knocked out, I had broken bones, I have scars on my body still because I played hockey there, I speed skated there, I grew up there, I gave blood there, but I loved the place. It was my home just as much as my house on St. Daniel Lane growing up. So thanks for the feedback. If you have feedback and I want more for next week, patreon.com/BRGS podcast. Okay, here is today's topic. And it's an easy one, but it's something I want you to do for me for next week. We're moving into the Thanksgiving season. Hold up on the Christmas. I'm the biggest Christmas person in the world. Don't get me wrong. I love Christmas. However, let's take a couple weeks here in between now and Christmas season to enjoy Thanksgiving, to enjoy being grateful. And I saw somebody post something about being intentional in finding joy in the small things in your life. And I thought about that the other day. And I want to do that. And so what I did was this week, throughout the week, because I knew we'd have the show on Tuesday, is I used my Google Keep app, which is a little free app that I use to keep track of notes on my phone, whatever, to-do list you have on your phone. Do this week. And I just made a list. I don't even know if it's 10 things. It's like 8 or 9 maybe. And these are random things that are just making me happy in my life this week. And they're so dumb, but they are bringing me joy, and I'm happy about these things. So I want to hear your list. Make me a quick list. And again, patreon.com/BRGS podcast. Give me the feedback and we'll share them next week, because it's so funny that you don't need big things to be happy in life. Small things. Be grateful. When you're grateful, you feel better physically, you feel better mentally. And how lucky are we that we can think about these things? Here's number one. This is how dumb this list is. That new pimento honey pepper chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A. I love that thing. I'm obsessed with that thing. If Chick-fil-A takes that thing off the menu, I'm going to be upset. And my wife and I, since that thing's come out, we've made it a kind of a little tradition over the last 4 or 5 weeks. We have that for lunch every Saturday morning, or at noon. And Saturday after she cleans the house, I get my work done. And right before, right as it's around 11:30, right as the football games kick, as long as, this week will be harder because Mizzou's got an afternoon game. But we always have the honey, it's called the pimento honey pepper chicken sandwich. You want the pimento cheese. Oh my gosh, that thing is so good. It brings me joy. I know it's so dumb, but I love that with my Coke Zero and the waffle fries. Not a big deal, but it brings me joy. Number two, or the second thing on my list, the Mizzou season this year, football. We're not perfect. We're 7-2. But when you have a school like Mizzou, I'm finding joy because we're better than average this year. For our school, we're not going to probably win a national championship. I understand that. But here's the thing. When you root for a team like Missouri, you got to understand, you have to find the joy in just getting mentioned in the polls. Seeing our little tiger logo on ESPN every once in a while makes me happy that we get recognized. When the national media talks about us every now and then, that makes me happy. A lot of times when you have a school like Mizzou or Iowa or an Arkansas or not a traditional power that has won a national championship, you don't get a lot of attention. But this year we're getting a small amount of attention, and it brings me pride to be from Missouri. And so this year we're 7-2, and we have a chance to go to a really good bowl game. And the football that we're playing this year is fun. We're scoring a lot of points, and we have a lot of good kids on the team to root for. I love rooting for Brady Cook. He wanted to be a quarterback at Mizzou since he was a little kid. There's pictures of him when he was 8, 9, 10 years old in a Mizzou jersey, just like I had. Mizzou hats. He wanted it more than anything, and now he's getting to live his dream. I love seeing that. That makes me happy. So yes, this Mizzou season has brought me joy, and I'm not letting that loss to Georgia kill my joy. It did for about 15 minutes, but I'm not letting it. Next, the wonderful fall weather we've had this year. Right now, today, it's going to be 80 degrees, and it's been really warm the last, week or so. We've had a couple cold days, really cold days, but for the most part, we've had amazing fall weather, and it just makes me happy. Of course, it's going to get cold here soon, But man, have we been blessed with great weather to get outside and enjoy it, and just wonderful fall colors. The colors this year on the trees have been amazing, and I've loved taking pictures with my iPhone. I didn't upgrade my iPhone this year because I didn't see the need to. But what I've done instead of upgrading my iPhone is I've downloaded some new apps so I can kind of pretend like it's new and try new settings on my camera and try new techniques with taking pictures. So even though I don't have the newest iPhone, I'm using new software and trying things and trying to find new ways to take different pictures of different, the trees and the leaves with macro mode and just enjoying the season, really getting out there. Also, one other thing, as a travel agent, I'm glad there haven't been many hurricanes in the Caribbean. Personally, because it takes so much work when they have to reschedule cruises, but also for my guests, because I know that's a lot of stress for everybody that has to worry about hurricanes in the Caribbean. So it's a win-win this year. We haven't had to deal with that. Next, getting ready for Christmas. This whole like anticipation of Christmas. I said to hold up on Christmas, but I'm one of those people. I do love Christmas. So I love seeing like the first few Christmas commercials on TV. I always tell Pam, Christmas commercial, they're coming on. And like I like seeing that. I like when a Christmas commercial has like jingle bells in the background. That kind of makes me excited. I am gonna buy a small Christmas tree, I think, for the studio this year and make it look very 50s is my plan. So I've been like planning on that. That's making me happy, kind of going through Amazon and trying to find some like tinsel is the plan for that. I did use some of the Patreon money the other day. I used $18, just so you know, and I bought a little it was like a kit that you'll see once we hit the Christmas season. We'll now have little lights around the video stream. Christmas lights. We'll have a pop-up Santa and Rudolph and some elves. So it'll look really nice. Our video feed is going to look very nice. So I used $18 of the Patreon money, just so you know, to deck the halls for the holiday season. So thank you so very much for that. That's what we use our stuff for, to make our podcast better. I think you guys will get a kick out of that. I'm also really looking forward to the Christmas music. I have not started listening yet. I'm trying to hold off. All right, we have a few more. Another thing I'm getting really a lot of joy in is, again, just enjoying watching Mallory cheer varsity sports. I'm enjoying seeing her on the sidelines. She's doing a great job. It's so cool because I don't have any sons, and seeing my daughters excel in what they do. She got the Spirit Stick on Friday, which means that she was recognized by her squad as being the most spirited cheerleader over at Lafayette. That made my heart swell. And then last night, watching Paige's basketball team, the University of Illinois Chicago Flames, they had their very first game of the year against Loyola, and tuning into ESPN Plus and seeing them get their first win of the year. They're 1-0, and seeing her on the bench and seeing her team excel. It makes, as a dad, you're just happy to see your daughters excel. So just watching it's awesome getting to see your daughters do what they love. And also I'm excited because I get to see Paige play here in St. Louis the day before my birthday on November 26th. They have a game against St. Louis University downtown. So I get to go see Paige in person. That'll be fun. I'm excited for that. Here's another thing that's brought me joy lately. I'm getting a lot more photos and feedback from my guests. They're sending me email about trips. And like Trisha, for example, thanks Trisha from up in Wisconsin, one of our patrons here that always gives feedback. When she was down at Walt Disney World every morning, she would just check in with an email saying, guess what we're doing today, Mike? And telling me like about their trip. And that brought me joy. I mean, it did, because, like you plow through emails every morning. We all do this at work, right? You get to the office and, like for my office, I just walk downstairs, come in here, and, you see what's happening. You start, you attack your job. You gotta do what you gotta do. But like when you get emails about, oh yeah, today I'm with my parents, we're going to try out Beverly, we're at Club Cool. I mean, you don't spend a lot of time on it, but it's cool. Like, that's why I love what I do. And so I've been getting a lot more of those from just a lot of guests, pictures of folks with their kids, in front of Cinderella Castle, or, having a breakfast over at Akershoes, what have you. I don't know why I haven't really asked for that anymore, but just getting that stuff makes me happy. Also, I've seen we've gotten a few nice reviews over on Apple Podcasts. That warms my heart, because I will tell you, I love doing the podcast. I hope you guys always know that. I try to tell you that because I do love doing this podcast. And really the only way people discover the podcast, new folks, is through the way you get your ratings up is through those reviews on Apple Podcasts. And 5-star reviews just shoot you right up the algorithm. And so when people take the time to do that, it warms my heart because I know it takes time out of your day. So I've seen that people have done that, and I appreciate that very, very much. So those, just people tell me about their trips and photos. I love that. And people taking the time to write about our show. Again, joy. It makes me happy. Here's another thing that's brought me joy. I've been going back to the podcasts I love. For example, this morning on the treadmill, today was my walk day. So I was just because run day I can't mess around with my phone, but on walk day I can play around with my phone. I didn't want to listen to a couple of I keep some for my runs. So I was looking for old shows to listen to, and I've told you about the one I listened to. This Rob guy down in Oklahoma. It's called "You Don't Know Flack," and he had this 2.5-hour episode because my walks are really long. And he interviewed his best friend from when he was 4 years old, and they're still friends. His friend's name was Andy. And I went back and listened to that interview again because it's from like a year ago. And I just like going back to my favorite podcasts and finding old episodes that I've listened to, but years ago, maybe, or months ago, and rediscovering these podcasts again. And that they can bring me joy a second time around. Yes, I've heard them, but I don't remember them word for word. But sometimes a podcast is like an old friend. You've heard it once, but there's no harm in listening to it a second time around. And what I found was, yeah, I'd heard this podcast and I'd heard those stories before, but I could relate to those stories. Like I have stories very similar to Rob and Andy's stories, and a lot of them are Mike and Scott stories, but we haven't known each other since we were kids. We didn't meet each other till about 9 years ago. But I have stories like that with my friend Steve that's passed away about 10 years ago. And my friend Ryan that I grew up with. But yeah, it's fun. So old podcasts bring me joy. 3 more here. The company of my buddy Riley every day. I work from home. The girls are always at school. So it can be lonely. I hardly ever leave the house except maybe to go out to eat each evening, and to go to high school football games. I don't go hardly anywhere. And a good dog, and Riley is a great dog. I'm thankful. She brings me joy because she's always by my side, and she is a great dog. And so I get to take her out to walk and use the restroom every day a few times. And I thank Paige that she let Riley stay here. So having a good dog makes me happy. Also, another thing I was thinking about that brings me joy is truly being married to an angel. Without my wife's support, she wouldn't give me the time to do the podcast. Not 1 time a week, not 2 times a week, not 3 times a week. We do the podcast 5 times a week with this show. And she also allowed me to take a chance. I'm going to quit teaching. I'm going to quit my full-time job with retirement, with benefits, and try something that is totally a crapshoot. And she said, chase your dream, Mike. And she lets me do crazy stuff like train for marathons. That takes a ton of time away from the family. When you find somebody like that, that's 1 in a million. So I never forget. I'm joyful in that. And then finally, another thing that that I found joy in lately is this whole trip that's coming up in January. This Dopey Challenge / Disneyland Dual Coast Dash is what I'm calling it. I'm super excited for this because it's going to be insane. I don't know if I'm going to make it. My knees have been killing me over the last 10 days. They're coming back. They're hurting really bad. It's a struggle. I'm really getting nervous about it. But this whole the challenge of doing 48 miles, I'll be home for 2.5 days, getting on a plane and going out to the West Coast. And I love Disneyland. I love because it's all new still. And I've never run at Disneyland either. And then doing a 10K and a half out there, getting a coast to coast. I mean, I'm super jazzed for this whole challenge of something that's going to last for 2 weeks. That's bringing me joy because it's starting fresh again. So those are just some of the things I had on my list of things that are bringing me joy this week. Also, let me just tell you, I saw joy in action about 30 minutes ago, and I took Riley out to use the restroom this morning. 2 doors down, I have an elderly guy who he has the best looking lawn. I mean, he's a big Nebraska football fan. He flies the flag out in front of his house every day, and we always talk football. But he has his grandkids over today. And I saw joy personified. He has grandkids, probably about 6th grade, maybe he's a grandson, granddaughter, and he had some other kids. I don't know, there's 6 kids in his yard when I went over there. But the 11-year-old was driving his riding lawnmower because he has just a regular size riding lawnmower, and he had the trailer hooked onto it. And there were like two kids in the trailer, and they were just riding around in his yard. That was joy. I mean, one of them had a rake. And I mean, the kid driving the riding lawnmower was just having the time of his life, and the kids in the trailer were having the time. It was pure joy because there's no school today because it's election day. So the small things are the best things. We say this about Disney vacations all the time, but find it in some kind of a fun thing to eat at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or Taco Bell or what have you, or your favorite restaurant, or something your grandma made, a secret family recipe. Find it in your kid's smile. Find it in, a card that somebody gave you a few years ago that's still tucked away in a drawer in your bedroom. But make that list and just share it with us this week. I'd love to share just a few highlights. You don't have to share 10 things, share 5 things. And you don't have to tell a whole story. Just give us a list and we can kind of read between the lines. But more importantly, go through the exercise for yourself because I think it makes you happy. Also, one final thing. I forgot to mention this on the podcast. I was going to on Friday. It's Veterans Day this weekend. And a lot of veterans wear those hats that say like, retired or Navy or, whatever, where they serve. They're those military hats. If you see somebody at a restaurant that has one of those hats on, buy them dinner. This has kind of been one of the things Pam and I have done for the last 5 years. We go to this diner by us called Gingham's, and there's a lot of elderly folks there. We tend to eat where the old people eat. One, it's usually cheap, and two, it's usually really good food. But the other night we went to Texas Roadhouse and we sat at the bar because it was a long wait, but there were 2 seats at the bar. And this gentleman came and sat next to us. He was by himself and he got a bowl, he ordered his meal. We got to talking and he was by himself and he had a, retired Navy hat on. And so I told Pam, like, make sure you tell the bartender. We didn't tell him. We told the bartender, like, make sure you tell her to give us his bill. And we paid his bill for him. And it's a simple thing you can do for somebody that's served. Just do it anonymously. And it's a way to say thanks for the service. You don't have to like make a big deal out of it, but what's the least you can do for folks that have served for us? And we've been doing that and it's not a big deal. It doesn't cost that much, but I wish there was more you could do, but it's a way to identify veterans and say thank you, for serving and makes you feel good. It does. It makes you feel good and hopefully it makes them feel appreciated. And, he came over because she told him that we paid for his meal. And, we didn't know he was getting, he only got a bowl of chili and like a salad or something. I thought that was like his start. For me, that's the starters. The guy he was 86 years old. He looked so young. Because he told me, like, when were you born? I was like 73. He's like, oh my gosh, I was already out of the service by then. I was like, holy cow. So we had this conversation. It was great. He just wanted somebody to talk to, I think. And that was awesome. I loved it. But that's just something you can do, a small thing. It's like, like we talked about, like buying a balloon for a kid at Walt Disney World. Buy dinner for a vet this weekend. If you see one in your restaurant, just peep around. Just look around. Those hats are a good way to identify. That's what we do around here. I don't know if you have that around you guys, but it makes you feel good. All right, we're going to jump out of here. Can't wait for your feedback. Hope you have a great week. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'm so glad we get together like this. All right, have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.